And here is how. On operation at the end of the Cold War, he managed to intercept information from the Russian Northern Fleet. That helped the Allied nations divert a strike in the Baltics. And I tell you, ladies, you don't want a strike in the Baltics. That strike would have led to nuclear war and ended human race as well as, almost all life on this planet for thousands of years, apart from you cockroaches. So, it turns out that Will has saved every human that lives and will ever live. I said.
The Professor. I was utterly incredulous. I was astounded. I was phenomenally flummoxed, fearfully flabbergasted. Not to mention, fucking furious. I mean, I'm not exactly a bad loser, but nonetheless, I utterly hate losing. What on earth? What on all the planes had Bozzy just said? That bastard had just saved everyone. Saved everyone. Still in disbelief, I shook my head and realized that, as I told my friend Albert Camus, life is ridiculous. Again, I'd thought that life was profound, that all this... What would be the most appropriate word to use in this context? All this was bollocks. I'd made an assumption, and that assumption was quite valid in one context. The creature sitting there across from me was a murderer. He was a foul and sadistic killer in himself. And that label rang true from the words on his vicious lips to the claws which burst forth from his murderous fingertips. However, for others who knew how to use and almost control him, he was a valuable tool. And what do I mean by almost controlling him? Well, as you probably know, he had left the army after killing his senior officer and murdering that man's family. The people in authority had made a simple mistake. They'd given him more leeway and self-regulation. He had taken those things with excitement and used them at the perfect moment to do what he did best. To kill and to murder his way out of the situation. He was like many of the tools that are used on a daily basis. One mistake, one slip, one simple kickback, and you could lose a finger, or an eye, or maybe even your life. A smattering of mirth swelled within me at my acceptance and realization of what he really was. I laughed at the fact that Will would probably be as surprised as anyone that he'd saved the entire human race. I know he'd not tried to do so. Let's be honest. Hadn't been on his to-do list, had it? I'd worked for 8 centuries to do the same thing. It had cost me dear. Through the years, I'd isolated as many people and situations as my capabilities would permit, and got out of my way to help or stop them. To save people. Making difficult decisions at every turn, weighing the odds and smashing my heart on every occasion I sacrificed an individual in pursuit of protecting the many. I was going against my own nature to save some of these people, but I was made to go against my nature by the nature of God. Every hour and every moment on an 800-year path to save people. to make them better humans. I was fighting and finding places to help. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it did not. But whatever the outcome, I had utterly sunk my heart and my soul into that work. For a moment, I hated the monster on his throne across from me all the more. More than anything or anyone that I had ever known. He didn't have an altruistic bone in his vicious body. He was a complete and utter psychopath. A loose cannon who loved destruction and death for no other reason than he got to do it, and he truly enjoyed it. He called it his art. His muses were the unfathomable chaos, and the soul killer, despair. I laughed. What else could I do? In my eyes, he was pure evil personified. And in the grand scheme of things, it transpired that with no malice aforethought, no design and no desire to become so, he was actually one of the greatest saints in the history of humankind. He was good in the eyes of John Stuart Mill and Jeremy Bentham and their utilitarian ideals. His path was to the greater good. His actions were miraculous. So many actions, almost all of which had been given to him by others and were not of his own volition, his own choice. He'd been doing a job. He'd probably killed and been given the freedom to murder and cause pain to do it by others. As I said, he was a tool, a weapon. A tool cannot be either good or bad, can it? In the words of that great song, guns don't kill people, rappers do. Unless, of course, you believe that tools can have preferences or consciousness or free will, which, because I was trying to help the human race, I had actually spent a decade looking into this, but no, not for me. Can non-sentient things have a sentience? I agree that's a weird sentence. But we found some things can pick up and hold the energy of emotional moments. Emotion has power, and that power can be absorbed by the things around it. A reason for some ghosts right there is stored or stuck emotional energy. Okay, you can say that what I've just said is against certain bits of physics, like the laws of thermodynamics. But I've found that we don't have all the answers yet, and that the rules that physics strictly impose upon nature are somewhat like those rules we impose upon ourselves. They can be stretched and worked around, and they are incomplete. One thing modern physicists all seem to agree upon is that every law and every rule works perfectly, right up until the point when it does not. Well, sorry, I digress. But I thought this insight into my mind at this moment would give you some understanding of the way I was thinking.
Will. I did what? Well, that's a surprise. I'm the saviour of man. I'd like to say it gave me a warm glow in the areas that give you warm glows, but it did not. Couldn't really give a fuck, to be honest. I'd never meant to do anything like that. Although I have to remind myself that if nuclear war had broken out, I would have lost my favourite thing to do, like torturing and killing things that could really feel and contemplate it. It's my art, after all. Why would I rob myself of that? Thank fuck I saved the human race. What would I do for fun if those fuckers weren't around? Anyway, what happens now at this game show thing? I had another look around. I noticed that Fenn was not by me. Where was he? Sitting in the front row. That was a nice touch. They'd given him a lovely big beanbag from which to sit and watch the show. Only was chewing on something that kept screaming and crying and trying to crawl off. They'd given him a chew toy. Or perhaps not. Maybe it was just some unlucky member of the audience that was bite-sized for the wolf's soul. I laughed. I laughed at the thought. Perfect.
The Professor. Look at him there, looking all smug and sharing this moment with his wolf soul. The bastard. At least he gets to share it with someone. Not like me. No. I never get to. I'm always utterly alone. He probably thinks how amazing he is to have saved all those souls. He was the type to take this as proof of his incredibleness. Well, whatever. Let's see what happens next.
Well, I noticed the Professor looking at me while I watched Fenn chew his toy. He was not looking in, let's say, fine fettle. He was looking like he wanted me to disappear and die. Anyway, I suddenly felt Fenn's disappointment. He'd burst his toy and it was still and bloody. Of course I was amused. Of course I was, and then I turned back to the Professor and our eyes met. Oh God. He turned away from me. Ah well. Bosworth. So it turned out, against all the ideas that I had, that Wolfman had saved more souls. He'd saved more souls. It took a while for audience to settle at this news, and Noel did the professional bit where he sort of marshalled them back into quiet focus. Studio went dark again. Only Noel's glowing eyes could be seen. They were like two pits of angry flame in dark, a little bit hypnotising to say at least. That spotlight opened on his visage. He turned to now revealed sludge demon Graskell. Graskell was looking as terrified as a pile of poo can. He shivered. I guess he shivered in fear. I felt right sorry for that little chap. Noel lifted Mike to his mouth, a mouth that was somewhere between human and beast style. He was enjoying this, and it became evident that he had not all of his focus on keeping his Noel Edmonds form in form. Brief flashes of fire and darkness showed across his fine image.
Well, Graskell, some great news there. For the souls of man, you might say that was a proper result for all our souls.
Noel said. His voice took on a beast-style tinge as he continued.
Unfortunately for you, my little friend, you fucker, that means you were wrong. That means you were wrong, and you didn't get the star prize. You fucker.
He turned, pointing an hand at partition that slid to one side, revealing lovely Debbie McGee stood on hockey. If you don't know what hockey is, it's a bit where people stand to throw darts at a dartboard. And there she were, all beautiful and stuff, ready to throw a dart at the dartboard. Well, me little smear of shit, look at what you could have won. A beat-up board and 2.5 darts, I announced. The little demon looked devastated at this news, his eyes, all 13 of them, swell with tears.
Do you have anything to say to the audience and to the trillions of things out there listening on the planes?
Noel asked the snivelling shite.
I would like to say sorry to the boys in the break room for not getting them the board and things. I knew they were all walking forwards to it.
Oh, so you let all your colleagues down as well as our entire audience. What an awful sludge stain you are. You're not really worthy of existence. Are you, Grascal?
The little thing was beside himself with tears. His hand wiped each eye in turn as they filled and spilt down his pile with tears. Yeah.
You should do us all a favour, really, shouldn't you, you worthless piece of shit?
Noel continued darkly.
And luckily...
His tone changed back to pleasant Noel Edmonds at children's TV.
We can do something about that,
he said to audience.
So the second prize today is... well, it's over to Posy to find out what that is.
Noel said. Oh shit, where's that card? Really? I said without thinking. Okay, I continued and read card. Gaskell, second prize is the release of you from this horror that is your existence. I looked at little Pyle to gauge his reaction. It were smiling and jumping up and down with excitement. It looked thrilled. Now Noel looked back to Happy Thing. Kindness dwelt in his eyes. Was I going to see him destroy this little pile of shit that's existence was based on drowning souls in shit? Ah, now I know why he would rather not exist. It hit me that I would not want to be around if that was my lot in life, drowning souls in shit. Maybe demons can't kill or destroy themselves, is it? I don't know. So, wow, this was a grand prize, really. I strangely felt satisfied that the little thing was getting something it wanted, something that, from its own point of view, was a great thing.
Okay, guys, run VT. Are you ready?
Noel asked the demon.
Yes, I am,
replied the ecstatic entity.
Okay, laddies and lassies.
He said, turning to audience.
On the count of 3. And a 1. And a 2. And... wait for it. 3!
Fire sprung from his fingertips. He directed them at little creature. Flames ripped into it, tearing it asunder. Horrific, suffocating smoke floated towards the ceiling, when what was left of Graskell was just ashes.
Okay, well played, Graskell,
said Noel to audience in quite a conspirational tone.
Well played,
he repeated in a moment of personal thought.
Gosh, I hope he enjoys his lack of existence. The lucky swine, eh? To die. To be really dead. That must be glorious.
Crowd went fucking manic. As applause started to fall, Noel lifted a finger to his right ear and made a face as if he was listening closely to what was being said. As the final cheers fell, he nodded.
Well, losers and the lost, I'm afraid that 1 round's all we've got time for today. My apologies.
Crowd started to boo and hiss. Noel's eyes flashed with fire.
Hey, that's enough!
Instant silence.
I knew you'd understand. My friends.
He told crowd, knowing they were terrified of what they saw.
So now, all we have to do is consign the players to their allotted outcome. And to help me with this, I invite her ladyship to the stage.
Lucifer, dressed as finely as anyone with that true dark beauty could, appeared on stage floor, a long red dress against the palest of milk-like skin. Dark hair was lifted and piled in a magnificent pile on her head. Her eyes were amber and flashed at random. The crowd was in rapture. Laugh out loud, as you young people say, rapture. Garrett, Christian... Never mind. She walked at stage and Noel rushed to meet her where he offered her hand. She reached for his, and he bent with a bow and kissed her on the back of the hand while holding her eyes. He then turned and helped her climb stairs to stage. Once there, they turned to audience, where voluminous, lots of clapping and cheering broke out. Folk in crowd knew better than not clapping and cheering for her. If they did not, it would be like not doing so for Kim Jong-un in North Korea. Apart from, you'd eventually die there, while here it'd be forever torture. This time, succubi with their whips had to be brought to stop the audience exuberance. And from left, Paul Daniels and the lovely Debbie McGee wandered on, arms in arms. It was lovely,
Okay,
said Noel, trying to wave down the crowd.
God, what is it with you lot tonight? God,
He turned to Lucy and said,
I've never seen them so unsettled.
Lucy smiled and lifted a finely manicured hand with blood-red nails. She simply clicked her fingers and the crowd was silenced. Not out of a desire to stop making noise, not out of fear or any other reason, but because, well, she'd robbed them of the ability to make noise. Confusion took them. There was a lot of trying to look at own mouths and stuff and wondering why they couldn't make any noise,
Milady,
said Noel.
so I've invited her ladyship here as a chooser of the fate of our loser. The Professor!
Professor started to move in his seat and prostrate. What do you mean that's not a word? It should be. It sounds right. He prostrated at his treatment. I don't care if that's... What? I don't care if it's not a real word. If what's his face, what's he called, Shakespeare can make up words because he likes the sound of them, then so can I. Yeah, I've met him. Yeah, he was a bit of a prostrator himself. Anyway, what are we talking about? Back to the Professor.
Hey, wait a bloody minute. I didn't even agree to be on this shit show of a game show. So choosing my outcome without my consent to play in the first place is all bloody wrong.
The Prof told the audience. The audience looked at him as though he was spouting gobbledygook. Gobbledygook. He's actually a 4th level demon who tortures his damned by reading them the New York telephone book for eternity. So the Professor tried to be a bit more basic.
It's not fair,
he said, and instantly regretted doing so. Not fair is not an argument in the face sort of life, you know. That is one of those wishy-washy ideas of morals and ethics that humans have created, making the fair think of them as just being such cuties. The only thing that was fair in the phase world was how fair and pretty some of the elves were, to be honest.
Well, you know what I bloody mean,
said Simon, looking even more embarrassed as his sophisticated argument was brought down in the most unsophisticated place. After the audience had stopped laughing at the poor man, he sat hunched and angry in his seat, his chin propped on his hand, his hand propped on arm of his throne, and then a voice came from last expected place. The wolf, Will, had piped up. He has an excellent point, to be honest. All interest swung to Will. Noel and Satan looked at him. Was he actually trying to support Professor? Professor picked his chin from his hand and observed the wolf on opposite throne. A face of confusion was being exhibited across the silver fox's visage. The focus at crowd were now being on Will. Noel moved over to him with a smile. Hey, it was a right vicious smile.
So wait a minute. He has a point, ladies and gentlemen.
Said Noel to the crowd.
What is your point?
Asked Noel, pointing to Simon in his chair. Yeah, said Wolf, a little hesitantly. A creature in crowd laughed and was swiftly beaten into silence by others around him.
Wow, wait a moment. Do you think you're coming to his aid?
Yeah, he's right, Wolf said a little shiftily. While I was watching, I thought he was going to somehow take the piss out of the man on opposite throne. I imagined that he was going to say something sarcastic about him, you know, moaning about fairness. I think we all did. We were going to watch and hear the wolf take the piss. This would be right funny. Well, I've got to be honest. I've never gone out of my way to save anyone, really. I mean, if I saved all those people, then it was not by my choice. It may have been my hand, but not my choice to save them. I had no idea that when I did that job, that it was so important. I probably would have fucked it up on purpose for a laugh if I'd have known it was that important. It was just fun for me. I got to do a lot of sneaky peeky stuff, and I got to kill people and murder and create mayhem and chaos, and it was wonderful. I did a lot of that day. It was great. He winked at the crowd who murmured their points. As for saving lives on purpose, that is nonsense. I love killing everything I can. My only consideration is whether I can get away with it. I've even killed those who thought that they were the closest to me, or supposedly the closest to me, because their existence posed a threat to mine. I killed my wife so that she could not be used to blackmail me or threaten me, and she was, let's say, quite important to me at that time. Silence. The professional and erudite Noel Edmonds was even lost for words. In background, Paul Daniels' words could be heard.
Well, we don't like that, do we? Not a lot. We don't like that at all. Bloody hell,
he said. I just think that the question of who saved most souls is a little basic. That man over there is actually behaving in a decent and responsible way, trying to help. Oh, I'm not saying he's being completely altruistic. He's doing it to get entrance to paradise. But who does anything without something being in it for them? I cannot imagine many of the things here would do that. I definitely would not personally, but I am a psychotic bastard, so you would never expect me to anyway. There were pause, and then succubi must have been told in their earpieces to do something, so they held up their applause signs so audience could see them. The crowd gave awkward applause for something, and then there was silence.
Okay, well, what do you propose we do then?
Asked Noel. Oh, well, I don't give a... Stop that. Will tried again. I don't care about that, to be honest. I was just telling you my opinion. He's a bad guy trying to be a good guy, and sadly he is a really good at being a good bad guy, but not a good guy trying to be good, but a bad guy trying to be good, he said. It took me quite a while to unreel the sentence, but I got there, and his opinion was quite valid, I think. Crowd's response was a little confused. They clapped and cheered, but I don't think any of them knew why they did so. They just felt that maybe they should give some sort of response.
Oh, you think this way, do you? Are you saying that we should change the outcome of the game? My game? Are you telling me what to do?
Said Noel as he bloody transformed into gigantic bull-headed monstrosity and opened his wings, the span of them wiping parts of the audience out around the hall. The monster was fucking huge and filled the Albert Hall of my imagination from one side to the other. It stared down at the little man, the little Will, the little werewolf, and he looked at it and said, "No." To be honest, do what you... got you there, you didn't beat me, did you? Do what you want, he told the Gormant. Its face was far too close for his comfort. Gormant laughed. It felt it had won this little mental contest. Just, you're wrong, said Wolf, laughing at Gormant. It were proper pissed off, it were proper upset. It roared and flamed and raged, and other words describing how utterly upset it was with the world. Everyone and everything went silent in the room. It looked like it was going to hit the fan, whatever Gormants make. Do Gormants shit? I don't know. Okay. Then Gormant sank back into being an overly calm Noel Edmonds. He stood next to Devil, who stood bemused by all this. She held a smile on her blood-red lips.
Oh, but Noel, you did make me a promise,
she said in a more seductive tone, running her fingers through well-trimmed beard and all. It looked like it were fun. He looked at her hard. I don't know what that really means, looking at someone hard, but he did it.
I did, didn't I?
He smiled.
But do you know what? Like you, I lie.
Audience oohed.
They don't deserve to exist.
He told her.
They're not going to exist.
Hey, wait a minute. We had a deal. Not no deal,
she said. Her anger was building. Noel now laughed.
But what are you going to do, my little angel? My fallen shell of whatever you were? Damn me all the way to hell? You can't, can you?
He laughed.
I'm not yours to control, Lucy. No soul, see? No cares.
Satan stood now. Her once beautiful face was right ugly with anger as he turned to audience.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to destroy both of them. I'm going to destroy them on the physical and the non-physical plane. I will burn them, body and soul.
Noel ululated is that a word? I see. Good. The audience had no idea what to do. Both these things before them could destroy them in an instant, so there was no winning for them in this contest.
Drum roll, please.
Shouted Noel. He turned one arm and pointed at Professor and one arm and pointed that at the werewolf. He was about to. And then it came. A star-like shiny thing fell from roof at Albert Hall. As it fell, it transmuted into... Oh, for fuck's sake, here we go. It was his Gabeness. The arch-fucking angel. He'd obviously watched Superman because he was like flying, one fist extended ahead of him, golden wings held out behind him. And then there was a... And that fist connected with Noel's jaw. Ah, shit, it was all going to kick off now, innit? Oh well. Speak to you next time. Bosworth, over and out. Stop VT!